Welcome back to the Building Confidence podcast, where I host Louise as a party share what I've learned through the years, through the tears, so you don't have to. This is episode 123, and we're going to be talking about building your personal brand as a tradeswoman, and this is part one. This episode is proudly supported by Middies, and I'll talk a little bit more about them later on. What is your personal brand? Well, according to Google AI, a personal brand is the public perception of an individual reflecting their unique skills, values, and personalities. It's the reputation you build through your actions and how you present yourself online and offline. All right, so that's Google AI, and I pretty much agree with that. Personal brand is the way that you show up, the person that you want to project into the world. And sometimes we can get like a little bit fake here as well. So this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about kind of projecting the best version of yourself, or the version that you want the world to see, or the version that you want to become. So you start taking actions to be that person, and you're projecting that out into the world. All right. So with this, if you're kind of thinking, okay, what is this personal brand thing? I want to get known for something. Actually, people are starting to know my name, but I don't know what they know about me. If you're starting to ask some of these questions, then this is going to give you some information about it, I hope. No, I will. All right. So if we're kind of thinking, what is this personal brand thing? I want one, but I don't know what to do. Let's start testing and exploring. Just start testing things out. You can go to different events. You can ask to speak at schools. You can, change the way that you do your hair, wear a particular color. So personal branding comes from everything from your actions to the way that you look as well. So if you see me out and about, I typically have my curly hair out some way, shape, or form. I feel like it's a way that people identify me, and it's a little bit part of like my visual brand. I usually try and wear high vis to most events where it's appropriate, and when I actually have washed my nice high vis. And that's part of like my visual personal brand. So if you're kind of working out, okay, what are the actions behind my personal brand? What do I want them to be? I would start to take soft action. So just kind of testing and trying and kind of like seeing what happens without attachment to the outcome. Because you sometimes don't even know what outcome you want to get out of it. So kind of just going with the flow. A few ways to find this out. You can follow someone on social media and say, I like what they're doing, and start to kind of copy their actions to see what it is and how that works for you. Some other things, if you don't have someone that you want to kind of follow on that kind of has inspired you to kind of go into this personal brand world and how you're seeing yourself in the world, you can go to different networking events. So there are a few different networking events depending on what industry you're in. If you do a quick Google on like women in, or just the industry itself, I wanted to talk about this in part two, but I think I'm going to talk about it now. When you're a woman in an industry and you want to start to put yourself out there, we can either highlight the fact that we're a woman or not. So there is another amazing woman who does some amazing work being an ambassador for her industry, and she's actively decided not to highlight the fact that she's a woman in that industry. She is just her role, and that is what she wants to showcase to her world. That is what she's proud of, and she's decided not to go down that women in path. When I started to, I really want to do interviews, but time and logistics has gotten away from me. And I want to do an interview with her discussing how she made that decision, because it is a conversation that we've had in real life. Just like, do you want to be an ambassador, or your personal brand to be, I am electrician, mechanic, truck driver, whatever it is, or do you want to be known as female electrician, female truck driver? And sometimes those things come unofficially to us, and we can decide whether we want to kind of quote unquote capitalize on it or not, depending on what you want to change in the world, if there is something that you want to change in your world. So for me, I really lean into my experiences as a female mechanic, because I do believe that they were different to my male counterparts. Not saying that they were easier or harder, but some of them were very specific to me being a female, and I lean into that part of myself. I am a tradeswoman, I call myself, because that woman part of myself is one that I project. It is actively like front and center in my personal brand. I call myself a tradeswoman. I highlight that because I highlight that I can support other people who are tradeswomen who are maybe struggling with specific things with being a tradeswoman. But that can be a decision that you make. You don't have to make it now at the beginning of your journey. You can make it whenever you want. You can change between. With personal brand, there is no rules. You're not attached to what you project out into the world. The thing is, especially if you're fighting for something, you may come across pieces of information that make you change your mind or change your direction. And that's okay. That is all part of the human experience. It's really important to remember that it's okay to change your mind when you are doing these kinds of things, especially when you're putting yourself out into public and you're kind of like, oh no, I've already said this and I've posted that and I've had this discussion with this person. You're a human gathering more information, and that is totally fine to change your mind. All right. When you're putting yourself out there, some ways to put yourself out there, like I said, different networking events, whether they are specific to women, specific to your industry, you've got leadership ones. There's so many different things that you can go into. Women in construction, there's Sydney Build, there's NAWIC, there's supporting and linking tradeswomen, there's empowered women in trades, there's future lady tradies, there's women in mining, I believe there's women in quarrying, there is different women in construction stuff, women in mining and resources, I believe is another group. There's a few different groups that you can join, and if you Google these, they will start to come up. I'm sorry, I don't have an extensive list. The list can be very long depending on your location as well. There will be a lot of different variants of these around the world. So finding those different groups is something that you can do to kind of get yourself out there and get yourself known. Start talking about what you do, start interacting with other people, and work out the conversations that you actually like to have and the parts of your life that you actually want to talk about and like kind of project out into the world. I really like starting to do this in person, and you can also do this online at the same time. Online is a really accessible and affordable way to do this. And if you're at this kind of experimental part of your journey, I wouldn't recommend investing any money into things, whether it is professional recording equipment, whether it is kind of some coaches can be general, so I personally am a bit more general in that state. I'm not like, oh, you want to be an ambassador, you have to follow my path and do a podcast and do this and do that. I can help you generally. But there are some specific paid supports that you can get, say, if you're wanting to get like brand deals and do more social media content, or investing in kind of infrastructure or whatever. In that point in time, I would recommend having a bit of a play first before you put any money in behind this. But yeah, that's not a general rule. That's just what I kind of recommend. When you're doing this process, just see what your values are. Sometimes people may ask you to do things or pull you into conversations that are an absolute hell no. And you may not know this until you're actually in that position where someone is asking you to do it and you feel the ick in your body. You might feel you might feel the anxious feeling. You might feel that, oh no, you might feel like, oh, this feels like it's not me. This is not what I believe in. So why am I doing this? You're allowed to say no to things. That is 110% okay. People are going to have an opinion on this, especially when you're starting to put yourself out there. People will come at you with their opinions, all right? Sometimes they mean well and sometimes they don't mean well. There's lots of other episodes of this podcast going through those kinds of things. It's up to you whose opinions you take on and whose opinions that you value and whose opinions you don't value and don't want to take on. So that's all part of putting yourself out there in that kind of personal branding journey. People will have opinions, and you kind of got to take them as either, okay, this is actually important to me, they brought up an important point, or actually, no, absolutely not. One way that people can be an absolute no is if they don't have what you want, or if they're actually doing the opposite of what you want, and you can be like, absolutely not, I'm not taking any advice from you because you don't have where I want to go. Work out what excites you, what makes you mostly excited. If you come home from a day's work and you share something on your social media and people say, oh my God, I really relate to that. Like, is that something that excites you? Or is it going to a networking event and being like in the buzzing room of people around you? Is it when you talk about, women in the workplace? Is it when you talk about your industry specifically? Is it when you talk about leadership? See what really lights you up and go down that pathway. There is another amazing human. She's got the podcast Tradies Who Lead. So she's gone into the leadership path because that's what lights her up. I've gone into the women in path because that's what lights me up. And then I've got a friend who loves her truck driving industry, and talking about truck driving is what lights her up. Going into that, I got another girl that I'm friends with is the technical side. She's not doing any ambassadors. She's building an amazing business of technicians that are experts in their area that give good quality work. I actually know 2 girls that are doing that. They're not really focused on the women in, all that kind of stuff. They're like, we are boss at this and we're going to create other people who are boss at this. And that is awesome. So that's another way that you can go through it. And in this testing and trying is all part of that. It's all part of being like, who do I want to be in this world? And you can change that with more information. You can change that in 10 years. You can change that in 10 minutes. I probably wouldn't recommend the 10 minutes thing, but it is perfectly okay if you do. So, personal brand, whatever you want it to be, the way that you interact with the world is your personal brand. I really recommend doing this on purpose because sometimes we can create a personal brand by accident and it might not be one that we want to have. So just have a think about it. How are you moving through the world? You can either take action to kind of amplify this, or you can just keep moving through the world. There is no shame either way. 110% no shame either way. Alrighty. So have a look around you. See if there's something that you want to test and try. If you believe that there's something more for you, give it a crack. You can join different groups, whether they're women specific or industry specific. Have a little look around and see what they are. Test and try and have these conversations with people, whether it's online or in person. If things actually feel like really yuck to you and are like no, step away from you and then step away from them and see what actually excites you. What topics do you want to talk about that excite you? Lean into those. People are going to have an opinion, and that is fine. It is up to you whether you take on their opinion or not. That's a decision totally up to you. And if you need to change directions as you're doing this, go for your life. Go for your life. If you're at this point in time where you're testing and trying, you haven't signed any contracts, you haven't done anything like that, that's something I'm going to talk about in part 2 when you go a bit more official. Go for your life, change whatever you want. And even if you are in a contract, I'll talk about that next episode, but you can change your contracts as well. Anyway, so Middies is the supporter of this episode. Middies is a women's underwear brand. They make bamboo boxer shorts for women. I love them. I live in them. And I would really recommend you to try them out if you're up for something more comfortable. If you want any help or support with this, creating your personal brand or anything that is troubling you as a tradeswoman, please reach out to me. You can reach me through the description box in this podcast, or you can check me out on Instagram at Louise Zapati Coaching. But if you don't believe in yourself right now, please borrow my belief in you. I know you can do whatever you put your mind to. You might need to have a nap and a snack first, but I know you can do it. And I'll see you guys next week in part 2.